Hey guys, Alessio, hope you're well. Speaking to you today from Alanya in Turkey. Today I want to take a look at the chart of Bitcoin and explain to you what the situation is very briefly. I'll keep this short and sweet for you guys. By the way, just got here to Alanya, a beautiful place here in Turkey if you've never been. All right guys, talking about the chart of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin so far, after the major crash that occurred back in February when Bitcoin's price plummeted to about the 60K region, then we had a bounce. Now this bounce or rally that you've seen so far, again, this was anticipated. So again, after a huge drop like that, it's normal to get some kind of reversion to the mean or what's called a dead cat bounce, something like that. And listen guys, Bitcoin so far has not done anything to show that a bottom has been reached. So despite this recent bounce, I'm not convinced that a likely bottom has been reached on Bitcoin. And I think the probabilities are that we might see a lower low. And the reason is this: if you look at the recent bounce on Bitcoin, the pattern looks corrective. What I mean by that? Well, if you look at the structure and the pattern of the recent bounce or the rally, it's composed of three waves. As you can see here, a likely A wave, B wave, and a C wave, okay? So what needs to happen, here's the thing guys, what needs to happen before the probability of a bottom increases is a phi wave move, an impulsive rally. But the rally you've seen so far on Bitcoin the last few weeks since the major crash has been composed of three waves, which is a corrective structure. And by the way, guys, the rally on Bitcoin has not broken above resistance. I've covered this in the members video where the resistance levels are. But here's the thing, guys. If Bitcoin is going to prove to us that a bottom has been reached, what it needs to do is form a phi wave rally and then break through resistance. This has not happened. By the way, you'll notice the sentiment has shifted. As you can see here, the sentiment reading, the fear and greed index on Bitcoin in recent days, in fact, it went to 22. In other words, it went from a low of extreme fear at 5, as you can see there, towards the end of February. Then the sentiment went up a bit. It got a bit more positive towards 22 before dropping back down again. Also, if you take a look at this daily chart of Bitcoin, you'll see there's no positive divergence as yet on this chart. And usually there's a positive divergence on the chart of Bitcoin before a meaningful bottom takes place. But as yet, there's none. By the way, some people misunderstand this word bottom, because often when I use it in my videos, people think that a bottom means that a rally must happen back to the all-time highs. No guys, you can actually have two kinds of bottom after a major crash. One is an intermediate temporary bottom, as you can see here. In other words, the kind of bottom you see before a bear market rally, which actually often fails. Then you can have a second kind of a bottom, more of a long-term low before we rally towards the all-time highs. So you can have two kinds of a bottoming structure, or in other words, something that forms a floor in the market. But my feeling is that this current bounce and rally we've seen the last few weeks since the February crash is not convincing. It's not by any means impressive. And again, it's not impulsive. The structure looks corrective. It's three waves. And again, to me, this looks like an ABC rally so far. And again, we have not broken through resistance. So at the moment, the probabilities are still in favor of another drop back to new lows. And that I think is the higher probability. In my view, I think that in the next few weeks or the next several weeks, I think we could see, even if this bounce continues, even if we might see a continuation of this bounce, as long as Bitcoin stays below resistance, and again, as long as Bitcoin's pattern remains corrective, I still think the higher probability is for us to see another lower low, in other words, another drop to new lows below the 60K level, and then test the next support below the February lows. Okay, guys, so that I think is much more probable, much more likely. And by the way, if we see some kind of weakness in the stock market, which we're beginning to see at the moment, that also could put downward pressure on Bitcoin as well. So that's something we have to bear in mind. Let's see if the next drop that occurs, whether buyers will step in, whether bulls will step in, and perhaps form a much better low, a much more stronger support and flooring bottoming structure. And guys, make sure you check out the member video for much more detailed analysis of Bitcoin, stock markets, and gold. Thank you very much indeed, guys. So from here in Turkey, thank you very much indeed. See you guys in the next video update. Cheers.